I wanted to do a video about how God moved us to Laguna Beach because it's pretty crazy how he did it. He did it very similar to how he moved us to California originally, which started with dreams and different prophetic words we got the first time around, but not when we moved to Laguna Beach. So, but it was similar in different ways. So one of the things that happened was it started a year before we were to move, and what happened was that I got a couple of dreams. One specifically was about literally moving, and it's hard to know when dreams are literal or when they're symbolic, or sometimes they can be a mix. So what I did was I just shelved the dream, and I never really went to God and was like, what does this mean? And that's kind of a mistake that I've made in the past that I ended up getting some kind of severe consequences for some things that I ignored, dreams that I ignored. So that's just one lesson I've learned to not do, is if God gives you a dream, it is because he's trying to communicate something important to you. So not to just shelf a dream, but to, if you don't know what it means, seek him until you find the answer. Seek him until you find him on it. And sometimes, it's not for you yet, but he can also reveal that. But anyway, a year before we moved, I had a couple of dreams about literally moving, and I just thought it meant, oh, you're going to move to a new season spiritually or something like that. And so I really did not interpret it as literally to move. Another thing that happened that was similar to when God moved us to California was, besides having dreams, was we started seeing double numbers on the clock. This happened to Sean Bowles too, where he saw, if you know who Sean Bowles is, God moved him to California and he saw the 11 on the clock. Whenever he'd look at the clock, it was like oftentimes the number 11, like 9/11 or 10/11. Derek does that too. I see double numbers, a lot of different double numbers. And I think that's because I look at the time a lot more. But that can mean transition. That doesn't mean that God's going to do that every time. It's just a real life symbolism outside of dreaming. It's like God's speaking to you through symbolism in your waking hours. So anyway, that's what happened to us again. So we had multiple dreams. 3 were literal about moving, and then the rest of them were not. And what I found was that there was a lot of dreams that I had over the course of that year that I didn't know what they meant, and I just shelved it. And then when we were not getting the message that we were supposed to move, because I honestly thought that when we moved to Temecula, California, that it was going to be a 5-year house, because Oliver had a dream that we were going to move again when he turned 13. Well, I thought, okay, so that means this house is going to be a 5-year house. I didn't even think about it. I just knew what that dream meant. Obviously, that's not what it meant. I didn't see God on it very much. I didn't think to look at the symbolism behind maybe the number 13 and what that could have meant. I still haven't. So I'm going to go back and do that because I'm curious, what did that dream mean? It was probably just kind of something that was going on during that time, probably. But anyway, it did not mean that the Temecula house would be a 5-year house. So when God told us to move and we finally figured it out, it was a complete shock because we really honestly thought we were going to stay there. But as the time progressed, as we were getting closer to the time that we needed to move, our kids started having multiple dreams every night. And we were like, whoa, this is too much to ignore. So I really started seeking God about what the dreams meant, what he was trying to communicate. And we finally, from the dreams over the past year and the recent dreams that the kids were having, and also seeing, the double numbers on the clock, the transition. Oh, God did that the first time that he moved us to California. Maybe, it all fit together. It started to fit together, the puzzle pieces that he was moving us again. And so when we felt like that was the case, we started looking at houses in Laguna Beach. We had some dreams about specifically Laguna Beach. And so we felt like it has to be Laguna Beach. So the very first house we saw was the house that we ended up moving into. And we put in an offer. It was accepted at the lesser amount. And but then it fell through. The day we were supposed to sign the contract, it fell through. And I wanted to do another video about what happened to make the house fall through, because there was something significant that happened that we learned a big lesson on that caused the house to fall through the first time around. So that's for another time. But So the house fell through, and the day that we were supposed to sign the contract, they went with somebody else. And so over a month period, we were in this season of waiting, which happened the first time around when God moved us to California, and we waited for a month. And at that time, we started to lose hope. Like, maybe we're not supposed to move after all. And we're a lot more comfortable where we're at, and it's a lot cheaper where we're at. And also because we've been having dreams and also hearing it prophetically, and also just if you look at the secular news, the economy and things that's coming down the pike, bad things are coming. And so economic things, inflation, famine, these things, and we're like, oh, we're not moving. Let's just stay put. It's a lot more comfortable in Temecula. It's a lot cheaper. But God showed me during that time that he was moving us here during this time, even though there's going to be some bad things happening. So that we just have to trust him and leap blindly, and just trust him. And so the month goes by, and we ended up righting a wrong that we had done that caused the house to fall through. And I'll tell that story another time, but we righted the wrong. And the very next day after we did that, the realtor called me and said, well, you won't believe this, but the house came back open. The people who were going to rent it are breaking their contract because something about their son needing to go to a certain school, and he couldn't if they moved to Laguna Beach. So we're like, really? And so, I mean, the chances of that happening is 0. I mean, but anyway, it did happen. But so I was really praying for a confirmation that night, because at that point we had kind of made up our minds we are not moving. It wasn't something we wanted to do. And so we went, so that night I had a dream, and all the dream was I saw the house, and I saw it on a computer screen, and all it was around the house there was words that said winner, 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 as if we were winning a contest. We were winning the house in a contest. And can you see that? Isn't that beautiful? My biggest desire my whole life has always been to have an ocean view, and I'm sure that's a lot for a lot of people, but the fact that God gave that to me is amazing and just shows how good he is. But anyway, he asks you to do things that are hard, but there's huge blessings that come with it. This was one of them. So the next day we went to see the house. We were scheduled to see a few other houses before it, just for comparison's sake, but we were running late, and so we ended up canceling those. We're like, this is really the only house that we're interested in. And so we came and saw the house, and 15 minutes after we left, we get a call from the realtor, and she said, you will not believe this, but the owner happened to be outside and see you guys, which we didn't know. We didn't know the owner was outside. He was talking to a neighbor next door. And he saw us, and he said, I want them to rent the house. They're the ones I want. And they had showings for the rest of the day. They had more showings to show the house. So it wasn't like they were desperate. And for the lesser amount to us. And so we felt like God was just kind of shoving this house in our lap, saying, I'm giving you this house. And that was something too that God had told me, that he had a house for us. And I thought, well, we already moved. This was back when we lived in Temecula. So I didn't really understand that. I thought, well, I'm just mishearing God. But there was a lot of signs along the way. And so, looking back on it, you can piece the puzzle together. But when you're in it and you're living it, it's hard to do that. But anyway, so and another thing too, this time around, this is the one thing that was different about when God moved us here versus when he moved us to California, was that he did not give us any confirming words from anybody else that we were supposed to move. The first time around, we got a lot of prophetic confirmations from people, and I really sought that out. I was calling up, contacting a ton of pastors that I had some kind of contact with and asking for confirmation. And the sun's going down. And I never got it. And so I think God was just kind of like, I really want you to get the answer from me this time and not from people. And so it's kind of like a stretching and a maturing in hearing God's voice. So anyway, so we made the leap to move, and we've been here for 2.5 months, and we absolutely love it. And we're still seeing double numbers on the clock. So it makes me think that the transition is not over. that there's other, I mean, I know that it's not over. There are other things that God is doing just besides physically moving to another house. We don't know everything. We don't really know what God's going to do with us here, but we know that we're meant to be here. And so we're just trusting God on it. So we're excited to see what's going to happen. It's a little unnerving sometimes if I let my mind start thinking about it too much. I can get into anxiety, but I have to just recall all the, all the dreams and different words he gave me about, no, we're supposed to be here. So anyway, I hope you found this video interesting, and that that you also can hear from God in those ways, that God speaks in all sorts of ways. Okay, bye.